Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Medina and members. Thank you all for having me here today. My name is Krishan Malhotra. I'm currently a senior at Stanislaus State in Turlock, where I study business administration with a concentration in marketing. I also serve as the Vice President of Legislative Affairs for the Cal State Student Association, which is the official voice of nearly 500,000 CSU students across the state. Today, I'd like to share how CSU students across the state have managed to deal with the global pandemic while still trying to access their education and graduate on time. Firstly, we need to acknowledge that students have faced all of the same challenges that you all have faced here, whether it be isolation, illness, or loss of family and friends. Students also had more of a unique challenge where we had to struggle with the transition to online learning. This resulted in learning loss and perpetuated equity gaps even more than we could have imagined before. The pandemic has exacerbated other pre-existing issues as well, like mental health, housing, and food insecurity. Nobody was prepared for this pandemic, not the state, not the CSU, and definitely not our students. And this led to a huge scramble in March 2020 to figure out how we could transition to being virtual. And in the beginning, most of the efforts were centered around ensuring students could access their classes while they're online at home. Campuses did their best at the time to address the digital divide, whether it was providing hotspots or creating partnership with broadband providers to ensure that students could gain access to the internet. But even with those efforts, students struggled and continue to struggle to this day with having a stable and reliable connection for their classes. For those without a laptop, campuses also provided loaners. And this was limited to the amount of campuses, the amount of laptops that a campus had. Fortunately, like you heard earlier, with new programs like CSSA, freshmen and transfer students are provided with a tablet and a keyboard and an Apple Pencil. So strides are being made to expand this program, and we're hoping for more funding, and it can help us close equity gaps moving forward. As you all know, also, situations vary greatly from campus to campus, but generally there has been a lack of feeling of support and empathy to the struggles that our students have faced in the last 21 months. Assumptions were made that virtual learning and online courses are exactly the same as they would be in person, and that's the furthest thing from the truth. Virtual learning is extremely different, and even to this day, our students are struggling with burnout and Zoom fatigue. There are always challenges, as we all know very firsthand, but I feel it's important to highlight some of the positives as well. Extremely important student support services like academic advising and mental health counseling had moved to an online and now a hybrid model, so students could continue to receive those services. Because of this shift, more students are able to use the services without having to travel to campus, which is great. It makes it more accessible for us all. Students are also happy to see the CSU temporarily suspend the ACT and SAT as admissions requirements to its universities, and hope this becomes permanent as standardized testing poses its own set of equity concerns. Another component that students have liked is the flexibility of asynchronous online courses. These courses allow for students to learn on their own, at their own pace, while balancing their other responsibilities. And students have voiced their support for this model because it makes the degree accessible to them just because of the timing availability. Now, as we continue to navigate returning to campus, students are trying to navigate a world of vaccine requirements, masks, and their own health concerns. While the CSU does have a vaccine requirement to lower the risk of COVID-19 transmission, safety is still a big concern for many of our students. Students are still feeling the impact of the pandemic and are struggling to navigate returning to campus while finding childcare, taking care of sick family members, and a huge variance in guidelines from city to city throughout our state. Something as simple as parking, an already incredibly expensive service, has hindered students' ability to return to campus. So if our answer is going back to campus, we need to look at what's holding us back. The pandemic also resulted in job loss for countless students and their families, which only exacerbated pre-existing financial struggles and hindered a student's ability to afford their degree. Moving forward, increases and reforms of financial aid are critical to ensuring students can still graduate and that equity gaps are eliminated. And Chair Medina, I know you're familiar with that. Support for basic needs is also a critical component of recovery, and it's important that the state continues to invest in efforts to address food insecurity, homelessness, and the mental health crisis. Internet access and technology will also need to be addressed through the state to ensure that students can be successful in future courses, regardless of what modality they're being taught in. Students would like to continue to see choices in how and where they can attend classes or receive services. Having options for students to attend either in person or online allows the student to have the choice to determine what is best for their learning style while also considering their other obligations and responsibilities. In conclusion, our state needs to invest in our students, and higher education institutions exist in order to better the lives of students, but right now we're struggling. The state and our institutions must work together to mitigate the horrible impact the pandemic has had, and I hope that we can do that together. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Christian. Next, we'll go to Steve Dorsey, III, President of the Student Association.